Well, this is the one of the many movies this year that are based on a Stephen King novel, but can this be the best out of all of them? Let's find out. Hey, what's up, you guys? Film fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to review 1922. So 1922 stars Thomas Jane, and what this film is basically about. It's about this, this farmer in the year 1922, obviously, and he wants to murder his wife for financial gain, and he tries to convince his teenage son to help him do it. Yeah, and some things take some turns from there. So, what did I think of 1922? Now, going into 1922, I literally knew nothing about this movie. I didn't even know this movie was being made until a couple things. One, I noticed it one day on Netflix just randomly. I was like, oh, well, didn't know this was being made. Two, a couple of my friends, Tony, Caden, and Kevin, I believe, they all watched it and, they all enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, now I have a little bit more interest in watching it. And I heard Thomas Jane was the main star of the film, which I really like him as an actor. So I was like, oh, I'm even more intrigued now. So, yeah, I decided, I'll watch this at some point, and obviously I'm reviewing it now, so obviously I did. So, what did I think of it? I really loved it a lot, honestly. I really loved 1922. 1922 is a really great movie about dealing with grief and consequences. I really love that a lot about this movie, and how that handles that in a type of horror, mystery, crime type of, how it handles it in that type of a way. It's really interesting, this movie, and I was honestly really invested in this film. I really loved it a lot. So, it's time to get into my positives with the film. First being with the positives are the acting with the film. The acting is actually really good with this movie. I thought everyone did a really fantastic job, and the one who gives out the standout performance of the movie is Thomas Jane, without question. I've always loved Thomas Jane as an actor, obviously from, The Punisher, which is probably still my personal favorite performance for obvious reasons, because he's my favorite comic book character and stuff. But this is, objectively, this is his best performance. Seriously, he gives a really fantastic performance in this film, and he really does a great job. I really enjoyed him. He's very, very methodical and very, conniving. That's the word for it. And he is just great. I loved him in this movie. He did such a fantastic job in the film. He really does an absolutely incredible job, and I enjoyed him in this movie. He really did a great job with his performance, and his narration throughout the film was really good too. I really liked his narration throughout the film as well. It really added a lot as well. So, yeah, Thomas Jane does a fantastic job of the movie. Molly Pardon, I believe that's how you say her last name. She was really good too. She plays the wife in the movie. I thought she did a pretty solid job in the film as well. The guy who plays the son is really great too. I thought he gave a really great performance as well. Neil McDonald is actually in this movie, and it was great seeing him, even though he's not in the film all that much. But when he's there, he is really good. I did enjoy him in the film. So yeah, the acting in this film was actually really good. I thought everyone gave a really good performance, especially Thomas Jane. Everyone does a really solid job in this film. I thought the horror element of this movie really worked. The really kind of horror, mystery, crime type of, feel that it has with the movie. I thought it really worked. I was really invested in it. I was on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen with this father and their son. I was just, kept on wondering. I was on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next, because I was so invested in the story and so invested in what was going to happen next. So, yeah, they did a really solid job with that in this movie. And also, what I really liked is how they handled grief and consequences in this movie. Like I talked about a little bit earlier, I really like how this movie handled that, and it does a really solid job. Definitely one of the best portrayals I've seen of grief in a film, honestly. I really love how it handles it in this movie, and they do such a really stellar job with it in this film. And it's really great. I really do think they do a really solid job with it in this movie, and, it just is very handled well in my eyes, honestly. So yeah, I really like how they portrayed grief and consequences in this movie, because they did a pretty solid job with that in this film. Um, I have to mention this because, like, I have a huge phobia of, like, rats and mice. Like, that is, like, my number one phobia. I can't stand them. They are disgusting. I just can't stand them. And let's just say they are used primarily throughout the entirety of this movie, basically. And this was actually going to be a flaw I had with the movie, because every time they were on screen, I just couldn't look, and it was just kind of, it was making me icky. And then when I was, talking to Katie, he was like, that shouldn't be a problem. The movie did its job well. Like, you were supposed to feel like that. And you know what? I was like, you actually got a point. And I'll give the movie props for that. The movie really did make me feel kind of icky and, squeamish a bit, because, like I said, I can't stand mice, and it's used primarily throughout the entirety of the movie, basically. And, yeah, oh, God. But, yeah, I just had to point that out really quick. And also, I really liked kind of the chemistry with Thomas Jane and the guy who plays his son. I actually liked their bond with each other. I actually thought it was really solid. I really liked that a lot with this movie. I thought they did a good job with that in this movie, too. The writing's pretty solid. I thought the movie had a pretty good screenplay to it. The dialogue with all the characters are pretty solid. So yeah, the writing's really good with the movie. Directing is fantastic. I love the directing with this movie. It's very well shot, very well edited. The cinematography is great. So yeah, the directing is really fantastic with this movie. I do think it is a very beautifully shot film. Like I said, it's very, very well shot. Editing's really good with the movie too. And, like I said, cinematography just looks beautiful. So, yeah, directing, very good with this movie. And lastly, with the positives, is that I thought the pacing was actually really good. It does move at a pretty nice, solid pace, honestly. Like, some people said this movie is, like, really, really slow. I honestly didn't feel that for the most part. For the most part, really, I thought this movie really moved at a nice, natural pace. So yeah, I really did not feel the pacing for the most part, honestly. I thought the movie moved at a nice, natural pace. But there are some negatives I do have with 1922, and my negatives are, first being, there's a side plot that happens with the son in this movie. I will say it's not nearly, I wasn't nearly as invested in that side plot that I was the actual movie. Honestly, I really didn't think, like, I just felt like it was kind of thrown in there. Honestly, it serves its purpose in the story. Like, I'm not saying that. Like, it does serve its purpose in the story, but just the way it was kind of handled to me, and the way it was developed, I just didn't think was all that developed well. I think they could have developed it a little bit better. So yeah, not like it's bad or anything, but I just wish they could have developed that side plot a little bit better. And lastly, there are some times where I do feel the running time. It's mostly like in the 1 hour mark. Kind of drags a little bit towards the third act. I will say that, like in the third act, it does drag a little bit. And that's really about it, honestly. So, yeah, overall, 1922, I really love this movie a lot. It's a great horror, mystery, crime movie about, kind of, dealing with grief and consequences. It's really great. I'm speaking gibberish. It's really great. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. So, it's time for my official grade on 1922, and my official grade on 1922 is an A-. It's a fantastic movie. I really loved it a lot. I was way more invested in it than I thought I was going to be, honestly. It's a really great movie. If you haven't seen 1922, it's right on Netflix. It's a Netflix original movie. Go on there, watch it. It's really fantastic. I loved it a lot. Definitely deserves an A-. So, if you have seen 1922, what did you think of it? Leave in the comment section below. And I'm FilmFan0599, and we will see you about later. Peace.